Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to today's morning devotion. It is August 18th, if I remember correctly, and that means it's time to go to the dentist again. I know. Anyway, welcome to the morning devotion. Yes, I have a dentist appointment today, a little later on, so excited to get into chapter 4. I was going to do maybe 4 and 5 together, but I thought, you know what, let me just hammer out 4 today and reading through the Bible and not make it too long. But there's something that I find super fascinating in this section, and it's way cool. I think many people read it and they just kind of blow by the book of Leviticus and they don't really think much about it, like how relevant it is and where concepts come from, covering ourselves, having to deal with the issues of guilt and shame in our heart. How do we deal with that? I mean, this is what entire I want to say industries are kind of predicated on. You know, have you ever heard of a psychologist, right? You know, where you go and you sit down and many people are counseling. People are dealing with issues in the heart. We're dealing with needing something, right? You know, why do we hang out in the groups we hang out with in the world? Why do we get with our subcultures, our particular groups? What are we needing? What is the real thing in our heart that we are crying out for? Man, the book of Leviticus brings it to light, and it's amazing. It really is fascinating that we have this recorded by the Hebrew nation, certainly indebted to the Hebrews for their incredible record keeping. And super stoked. So this is the morning devotion. My name's Beau, and I love to read through the Bible and just get into the source. Just read it, go through it. I wasn't raised around the Bible. I wasn't raised in the Christian environment. as far as like a home or around friends and those kind of things. It just wasn't on the radar for me or my family. But I started reading the Bible. I really appreciate all the reggae and all the heavy metal music that had biblical themes in them. Different Metallica songs and different bands that Iron Maiden, different bands that kind of wrote something about the Bible. They might themselves not have been Christians at all. But for this guy who was, for me, that was a secular kid, just growing up, a very atheistic kid. Man, it really made me think about why they even wrote about that, these topics. And later on down the road in my teenage years, it led me to read the Bible. And it certainly has altered the way I think about everything. So this says, "Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. This is how you are to deal with those who sin unintentionally by doing anything that violates one of the Lord's commands." So we're going to get this unintentionally, intentionally. Like an unintentional is you sin, you don't even know you're sinning. And that's sad. What I think is cool about this is that there is sin that's unintentional. And what I mean by that is the human condition is so crazy bad that we don't even know that we're in a state of unholiness. That's just how gnarly, that's what this is saying, by the way. I mean, it's not boding well for us human beings, right? It's like, oh man, yeah, it's unintentional, meaning you can go throughout a day and you could think, oh man, I didn't sin at all today. Oh yeah? How about that unintentional pride, right? That arrogance, right? Boasting, that unintentional, lust, the unintentional greed, covetousness, things that are going on in your heart, the desire for more. More. I need the more house. I need more this. I need this neighborhood. I need that this. I need this here. I need this there. Ooh, a lot of unintentional sin going on, right? Yeah, it kind of would beg to kind of, you would think like, oh my gosh, like human beings, like we can't stop, right? We just keep going. Unintentional. If the high priest sins, bringing guilt upon the entire community, remember there's like a headship to the priest in a way, right? Remember, it's like a representative of the people. He must give a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He must present to the Lord a young bull with no defects. So we've seen that before. He must bring the bull to the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle, lay his hand on the bull's head. Hey, we've talked about that, right? Substitutionary sacrifice. And slaughter it before the Lord. The high priest will then take some of the bull's blood on the tabernacle, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to dip it. Where? On the altar, right? Oh, you probably got it. Let's read it. It says he'll dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord in front of the inner curtain. Oh, okay, this one's a little different. So it says that the high priest will take some of this, the bull, he's going to lay his hand on it. He slaughters it before the Lord. Verse 5 says the high priest will then take some of the bull's blood and into the tabernacle, and he dips his finger into the blood and sprinkles it 7 times before the Lord in front of the inner curtain of the sanctuary. Okay, so where the high priest is supposed to go in, his, in a sense, special room to do the service of being a priest, making atonement for the sins of the people. It says the priest will then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar. Oh, okay. There we go. For the fragrant incense that stands in the Lord's presence inside the tabernacle. And he will pour out the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar for burnt offerings at the entrance of the tabernacle. Okay, so he deals with this stuff on the inside, and then he goes to the outside and he puts the blood out there on that altar as well. And then, because remember, there's an altar of incense, and then there's the altar, the sacrificial altar, outside of that holy place. Okay, and it says he will pour the rest of the bull's blood at the base of the altar for burnt offerings at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then the priest must remove all the fat of the bull to be offered as a sin offering. This includes all the fat around the internal organs, the 2 kidneys, and the fat around near the loins, and the long lobe of the liver. Okay, so we've seen that. He must remove he must remove these along with the kidneys, just as he does with cattle offered as a peace offering, and burn them on the altar of burnt offerings. But he must take whatever's left of the bull, its hide, meat, head, legs, internal organs, and dung, and carry it away into a place outside the camp that is ceremonially clean, the place where the ashes are dumped. There, on an ash heap, he will burn it on a wood fire. So he's going to take a bunch of stuff, right? And he's going to kind of get out there, take it to a place. It says outside the camp, which is kind of neat. If you did a little Bible study on just that phrase, outside the camp, you're going to end up in the New Testament book of Hebrews. And that'll be an interesting little Bible study for you. Outside the camp. You go check it out. And it says that is ceremonially clean. It's this place where they are to burn, right? The yuck. And it says, if the entire Israelite community sins by violating one of the Lord's commands, but the people don't realize it, they are still guilty. You're still guilty. Man, I didn't know I didn't sin. I don't feel guilty. Did I do anything wrong? I mean, I don't know, but I feel pretty good. But you're still guilty before the Lord. And this is kind of the hard truth of the Bible, right? Is that, you're guilty before God. And but you don't realize it. So I would be, if the Bible's true, I would imagine a world where human beings don't realize their condition. If the Bible's true, then I would expect a world in which people don't realize the true condition that we're in. That we somehow think of ourselves greater or better. That would be true. That would show that the Bible certainly is true. Meaning that's what the Bible says we should see. We should see a world where people think one way, but really they just can't they don't understand, or they don't want to understand, but they don't realize that they are guilty before God. So I would think that the world would be such that when you told a person that you're guilty before God, they would probably think you're kind of weird. I know I certainly thought people were weird when they told me stuff like that. When they said, "Hey, Beau, you're a sinner," or, "Hey, Beau, you're going to be judged by God, and God's holy, and you're not, man." I was like, "What? What are you talking about? That's weird. That's weird talk." Nothing's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong with my condition. I didn't realize it. Even though deep down, those nights where you're sitting on your bed thinking about life, I knew something's wrong with me. Something's off. I could tell that there was pride and arrogance and greed and lust and covetousness and desire for more and a wickedness that was untamable. And so the people don't realize it. They're still guilty. It says, when they become aware of their sin, the people must bring a young bull as an offering for their sin and present it before the tabernacle. The elders of the community must then lay their hands on the bull's head and slaughter it before the Lord. Notice the elders of the community, right? They become aware of their sin. They bring this young bull as an offering, and they present it to the tabernacle. The elders, right? This leadership team of the community lay their hands on it. It's like a headship there too, like a leadership, right, representing the people. And it says the elders of the ceremony of the community must then lay their hands on the bull's head and slaughter it before the Lord. And the high priest then will take some of the bull's blood into the tabernacle, dip his finger in the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord in front of the inner curtain. So there, before that inner curtain's entered, there's always blood being sprinkled on the curtain, right? It's like before you get to God, before you get to the presence, right? The whole cloud, the whole glory of God, all this, before you get there, you got to get through the blood. You got to go through the curtain, right? That's covered, right? And I mean, you sprinkle it 7 times. I mean, what a trip. Just think if you cut yourself and you took some of your blood and you sprinkled it on your curtain 7 times, and then then you did it again and again and again and again and again. Wow. And it says, verse 18, he will then put some of the blood on the horns of the altar for fragrance incense that stands in the Lord's presence inside the tabernacle. He will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar for the burnt offerings at the entrance of the tabernacle. Then the priest must remove all the animal's fat and burn it on the altar, just as he does with the bull offered as a sin offering for the high priest. Through this process, the priest will purify the people, making them right with the Lord. This is the whole point, to be right with the Lord. And they will be forgiven. Now, I want you to catch this. They will be forgiven. Then the priest must take what is left of the bull and carry it outside the camp and burn it there, just as it's done with the sin offering for the high priest. This offering is for the sin of the entire congregation of Israel. Wow. Okay. Forgiveness to the whole congregation through the blood that is shed. It is put onto the curtain so the high priest can go into that holy place. And when he goes into the presence, there's blood that's to be presented. Those elders are to lay their hands on the animal, the substitutionary sacrifice. The people's sins placed on the animal judged instead of the people. And that animal's blood being shown as the offering so that the people can now draw near to God. Wow. And be forgiven. If one of the elders leaders sin by violating one of the commands of the Lord, his God, but doesn't realize it, he is still guilty. Okay. Even though he doesn't know it. He's just not aware of it. But guess what? Still guilty. When he becomes aware of his sin, he must bring as his offering a male goat with no defects. He becomes aware of it. Ooh, it's one of the things that we finally realize in the Bible. Man, we become aware. Man, God, thank you that I've become aware of my sin. There was a time I sinned and I didn't even care. But now today, I'm stoked that when I sin, I'm aware of it. I know that was a sin. Man, I just know that wasn't right. I know the truth. I know that this is contrary to the truth. Man, being made aware is a blessing. I don't know if you've ever thanked God just to be aware, that you're aware of your sin. Man, it's a good thing. And so when he's made aware, right, then he deals with it. And it says he brings his offering, a male goat with no defects. He must lay his hand on the goat's head and slaughter it in the place where burnt offerings are slaughtered, before the Lord. It's always before the Lord, by the way. This is an offering for the sin. Then the priest will dip his finger in the blood of the sin offering and put it on the horns of the altar for burnt offerings. That's kind of more the outer one. And then it'll say he will pour the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. Then he must burn all the goat's fat on the altar, just as he does with the peace offerings. Through this process, the priest will purify the leader from his sin, making him right with the Lord, and he will be forgiven. I want you to catch that. He will be forgiven. If any of the common people sin by violating one of the Lord's commands, but they don't realize it, they are still guilty. And when they become aware of their sin, they must bring as an offering for their sin a female goat with no defects. They must lay their hand on the head of the sin offering and slaughter it in the place where the burnt offerings are slaughtered. So here you see a female goat being taken if any of the people sin by violating. So very cool. And it says, then the priest will dip his finger in the blood and put it on the horns of what? The altar of the burnt offering. That's right. And it says he will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar, and he must remove all the goat's fat, just as he does with the fat of the peace offering, and he will burn the fat on the altar, and it will be a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Through this process, the priest will purify the people. See, this is the priest's job. The priest's job is to bring people near to God. How is he going to do that? He's going to do it by blood. That's how he's going to do it. With blood comes cleansing. Remember that band? With blood comes cleansing? Man, that is the heaviest Christian band I've ever heard in my life. I mean, you want to talk about heavy bands. I mean, man, that band, I wish I could go see that band in concert. With blood comes cleansing. What a name of a band. Love it. Anyway, now don't go looking that up because it's a little heavy stuff. That's for sure. It's going to blow your brain a little bit. It says, if the people bring a sheep as their sin offering, it must be a female with no defects. Okay, so the people bring as a sheep. Okay, it's to be a female. And it says no defects. And they must lay their hands. Oh, by the way, it said they would be forgiven. I just want to let you know that at the end of the verse 31. And it says, they must lay their hands at the head of the sin offering and slaughter it in the place of the burnt offering are slaughtered. And the priest will dip his finger in the blood of the sin offering and put it on the horns of the altar, the burnt offering, and he will pour out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar. And he must remove all the fat, just as he does the fat of the sheep presented as a peace offering. And he will burn the fat on the altar on top of the special gifts presented to the Lord. You know, those special gifts, those grain offerings and, thanks offerings and stuff like that. And it says, through this process, the priest will purify the people from their sin, making them right with the Lord, and they will be forgiven. So there's a little bit of a little different protocol with the high priest offering than the common person. And we see that in this chapter. But we see a theme that's very cool, and it is forgiveness. And I find this way cool that in the Bible, now you're having a word stressed. And this is neat. You're having the word forgiven stressed in Leviticus. It's the need for people, humanity, to be forgiven. That this is why we do the issues we do, why humans do what we do is because there is guilt and shame always in us. We are covering it up through various ways and means in our life. We do it all the time, every day, covering up, not wanting to be exposed, not wanting to be really revealed for what we are and what we have become as human beings. And this is the condition. But there is forgiveness that is offered, and it's available. Now I want to read. I usually don't do any flipping on the morning devotion, but today I felt like it was important to do so because it's such an important connection to make when you read the book of Leviticus to see how it is such an important book because it's all about Jesus. That's who it's all about. If you don't like the book of Leviticus, then you're probably not going to dig Jesus too much, because Jesus is the Lamb that takes away the sin of the world. He is the firstborn. He is the Passover Lamb. He is the one who redeems us. Now, let me read from the book of Colossians. See if you can just grab why Paul writes the way he does. For Jesus has rescued us from the kingdom of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of his dear Son. He has brought us near, right? He has, there's been a transfer. We have moved from the kingdom of darkness and we've been transferred into the kingdom of his dear Son, who purchased our freedom and forgave our sins. Forgiveness, Leviticus 4, right? We're starting to see that Leviticus is showing that the need for humanity to be forgiven. Humans don't seek forgiveness well. After the time of Noah, not much people seeking forgiveness. People going about their business, sin ravaging people. People thinking they're doing fine, thinking they're doing good, but yet they're guilty. Guilty. Not realizing that they're guilty. And there's a need to be forgiven. People know they need to be forgiven. They know they've done wrong. But we cover up. We don't say nothing. We hide, right? The last thing we want to do is confess, right? I sin. I am a greedy man. I am a lustful man. I struggle. I sin in these ways. That's the last thing we want to do. But notice it says Jesus has purchased our freedom. He has ransomed us. He's delivered us. This is Exodus language. This is Leviticus language. Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God. And I'm reading from the book of Colossians 15, right? 1:15 right now. Messiah is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation. Now the Messiah is this child that would be born, this child that we've been waiting for. For through him, God created everything in the heavenly realm and on earth. He made the things we can see and the things we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through him and for him. He existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. Messiah is also the head of the church, which is his body. He is the beginning, supreme over all who rise from the dead. So he is the first in everything. For God, in all of his fullness, was pleased to live in the Messiah. And through him, God reconciled everything to himself. He made peace with everything in heaven and on earth, which means by means of Messiah's blood on the cross. Okay, so just as those priests sprinkled that curtain 7 times, Jesus' blood is poured out. And he makes our what? Peace. He becomes the peace offering. Do you see where they're going? Do you see how they're talking? How Paul is talking? This includes you who were once far off from God. You were his enemies, separated from him by your evil thoughts and actions, unintentional or intentional. Yet now he has reconciled you to himself through the death of Messiah, not the animals, but the Messiah, in his physical body. And as a result, he has brought you into his own presence, offering to bring near, right? And you are holy and blameless as you stand before him without a single fault. Wow. Man, can I just take a breath? Without a single fault, I am presented before God. Is that a mind blower? The blood was poured out, it was sprinkled, and it brought you and me near. And it says we could stand before him without a single fault. We have been what? Forgiven. He's purchased our freedom and forgave us our sins. I'll read one last one in Colossians chapter 2, verse 13. You were dead because of your sins and because of your sinful nature that was not yet cut away. Then God made you alive with the Messiah. He forgave all of our sins. He canceled the record of the charges against us, because there's a record. Man, God is keeping a record. That's why we got a Bible. It is the record. He canceled the record of the charges against us and took it away by nailing it to the cross. In this way, he disarmed the spiritual rulers and authorities. He shamed them publicly by his victory over them on the cross. All of our accusers, he's put to shame because he has forgiven us. Not through the blood of a bull, not through the blood of a sheep, not through the blood of a goat, not through the blood of a pigeon, but the high priest himself, the Messiah, the faithful high priest, presented his own body as a sacrifice. Wow, that is radical. Do you see how the writer, though, is in the book of Leviticus? He sees the forgiveness that's offered by the blood. It's the blood that makes atonement for our sin. Life is in the blood. We're going to get there in the book of Leviticus. But isn't that cool? Jesus is our substitution. He is the one who takes our sin, our hands laid on him. He takes our sin and he lays his hand on us and gives us his righteousness. Woo! Wow. Isn't it neat that we can be forgiven? If there's one thing we don't deserve as human beings is forgiveness. Because we sin unintentionally and intentionally, repeatedly. And at the moment we say, yeah, I deserve forgiveness, we're sinning again. And we have pride. And then we have arrogance and greed, right? And selfishness and conceit and vanity, right? And we're already in it. And then, but to have total, complete forgiveness. In order to have that, we need to have a total, complete offering, a perfect offering, an eternal offering, so that we can be eternally forgiven. And that's what God does. God comes and he takes a body and he offers himself, the eternal God in a human body. Wow. I mean, again, it's a mind blower. The love of God cannot even be measured. It is infinite. And it's beautiful. And so here you see in the Bible, Leviticus 4, a real stress on something that is very important in the Bible. And that is the need to be forgiven. And I need to be forgiven. I know that's a need that I need for my health, for my mental health. I need to know that I'm forgiven. And I know that this world ultimately needs to be forgiven. And that's what people need in their heart and in their mind and in their life. It's just that knowledge that they are loved and forgiven and accepted and adopted and in, not out. But it comes at a price. And that humbles us. It's not just something that, that doesn't cost anything. No, it costs its life. Wow. When we're dealing with God, we're dealing with the most important issues, the most valuable issues. And what's more valuable than life itself, right? Man. And he is the way, the truth, and the life. So, wow, very cool. And Craig, I hear you. Heaven, where we live without even thinking about not sinning. Yeah, that's going to be wild, But there's obviously a way that's presented and offered to us to be able to get to that place where we start the process, right? We become born again, and now we start the process of growing and moving in that direction. Okay, an important chapter. I hope you realize how important it is. It's on for the need for forgiveness, and we're going to see this theme continue now. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.